I was going to say, Chris, when you guys are speaking from the room, because you're all together, in gallery view, it's really small and far away, and it's hard to tell who's talking. So my recommendation is when you're interfacing with us and you guys are talking, this speaker view is best for us to see who's saying what.
You hand the laptop to somebody.
Yeah, the person who's speaking, or hopefully the person who's presenting, will be beside the computer hosting the meeting. So
Yeah.
that should solve itself.
Yeah.
But point taken.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out the bugs of how to make this part work, because it's we haven't tried to do a hybrid session before, so it's
Yeah. Well, like right now, it's really good because I feel like I'm part of the room with
Yeah.
you guys talking. But when you go to gallery view, then I see everybody. And if you guys are speaking, I was having a hard time trying to figure out who is it that was talking there. I mean, I recognizing your voices, but if I was new.
But Dwayne, if I came up and I had to use Chris's laptop, you would see who's speaking, right?
Yeah, exactly.
but I'd have to turn on this microphone to spotlight it, because otherwise it's always going to be that one gets spotlighted.
Yeah, I got it.
So you have to go closer to the we'll have to figure out a speaker location, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like we used to do in the portables, whoever was speaking, for those of you who've been to one of those, would come up to the table at the front.
Yeah.
That might work.
Plug in the stick on, put it up on the
I
screen.
think what would
And then
happen
they would
is
show it.
you'd have to do this. I'd have to come up to the top or the front of the room, turn this around
Turn that
to
around.
face me.
Also, it may not be too bad if they have speaker view on.
So I'd have
too,
to,
right?
I'd have to, present like this. So
Yeah, that's.
I wouldn't be looking at the screens on there. I'd be looking
Yeah.
at the audience.
Because that's
with me.
that's what's coming out on Zoom right now, is that. So that's good, because you're in front.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe has got the broadcasting Zoom basically,
Yes,
Well, hosting the meeting. Yeah.
except Chris is logged in as a client, right?
but I've shut everything off in terms of,
Right.
I've only got, the only thing I'm sharing is video, so that's why I don't get maximized when I'm speaking, because it's that computer that's picking me up.
And you're
as
not
a
getting an
speaker.
echo because it's not. picking
Yeah,
up
it's
your
that, yeah, so it's Joe's computer that's picking me up.
That's
If
the
I-
other thing. If anybody has any other devices connected to the meeting and they're in this room, they have to mute. Otherwise you get echoes.
Yeah,
I was actually even getting echoes even without that.
Oh, well, there you go.
that was just you.
I know, I know.
Well, welcome everyone. So this is our attempt to see if we can make this work. I'll just turn my computer, my laptop around, so it'll be the one that says Chris Purse, just to see what we're seeing again for those of you who have joined since I did this last time. This is the front of the room. So you can see Joe adjusting the computer. So that is the computer that we're using to host the meeting. We have one display, the shared one display up on the left side, and the gallery will be on the right, and we can see who's here. So that's basically how it's working at the moment. We are thinking about buying some specific equipment for this to make it work a little bit, so that anybody could come in and run these meetings. So that's the hope, is that we'll have a couple of people who know how to run the computer and a couple of people to do the in-person stuff. So that's the goal for our next season of Astro Cafe for sure.
Yeah, unlike our last Astro Cafe, when it was in person, we can't really rely on people bringing their own equipment. I think we need to have the equipment here so that they can just bring a presentation on a memory stick, or they can log into a website or whatever they want to do, give it to the host ahead of time to transfer whatever you want, and then run it on what I'm proposing, the Mac Mini, but I don't really care, whatever works.
Yeah, and then the idea being that, and then in this room, if we have that configuration all set up, we can use both monitors that we're looking at here. So. Any questions or comments or feedback for us so far?
So it looks like you're in the basement of the main building.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is this add-on piece. So that was an outside wall that's behind there. And they built this little annex on there, and our old portable is in that direction, in the direction of our monitors.
Oh, looks great.
Seats are there?
You see, you can see it out the window, maybe? That's our portable, right up there. So anyways,
Chris, how many seats are there in the room?
well, basically, right now we have, what, 3 couches, I guess, and there's a armchair. And we have a rack of chairs in our storage room, which is just on the other side of the wall over there. And so we can bring in more chairs. So right now there's seats for probably 10.
But currently we're 3+ feet apart. That wouldn't be the case if people.
No.
Yeah,
No.
if we do get a crowd, I mean, we push the furniture up against the walls and
Set up
and we'll
chairs.
set up chairs like we did in the other room. The only problem is this room is a little awkward because it's not a rectangular room. It's got alcoves and things, but we'll just have to work with it.
Yeah, it's like our previous room had that issue with, you know, with it where it had that when they, especially when they did that renovation to put that kitchen in, for those who were coming to Astro Cafe before they renovated the portable, may remember all of a sudden a wall kind of appeared that cut off some of our views, so and made the usable space worse.
So this is the back of the room, and there's probably room for a row of 6 or 7 chairs, and probably maybe 5 rows of chairs. So I think there's plenty, and we could spread out more if we need to.
And if David, if you just point over your shoulder there, that's the drum set. So we can play drums.
Don't ask me to play.
Dorothy, let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. My one question is about lights. That looks awfully bright. And what about the light coming into the room? From the old place, we had to wear blinders just not to be blinded by the blazing light over the doorway. But this light, are they controllable? So for projecting?
The windows do have blinds. We have them all up right now. But the room windows, the main windows in this area face north. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. There are some windows over on the side here that face west. They may be an issue depending on the season, but there's heavy trees out there. So I have a feeling it's going to be fine, I guess.
What about the overhead lights? I was rather thinking of.
These ones?
Well,
Yes.
if we turn the overhead lights off, then the webcam on the computer will get noisy. Here, I'll make it big so you can have a look.
No, I'm just thinking, remember, depending on what people are showing in terms of presentations, it's sometimes nice to have a dark screen. That looks as though it.
That's with the lights off.
And that's with them back.
And that's
on.
with the lights
But
on.
remember, Dorothy, there's no screen involved in the broadcast. It's coming direct digitally out of the computer.
Yeah,
You're not going to go in screen flare or anything.
yeah.
We're not photographing the screen.
I think you can pretty well ignore the conditions of the people that are here in person. As the online meeting will behave the same way as it always has.
Yeah, no, I was thinking in the wishful possible distant future where there's no limit to people and we'd have a crowd and might have a crowd in the room and be showing slides.
The slides are no problem because we're the TV is facing away from the window. And we do have shades on them we can use if we need to.
Yeah, and there's no light over the screen area. I guess that's the,
Yeah, the screen areas, we're all happy with that.
yeah, good.
And we have
That's good.
2 monitors now.
Here,
Yeah. Where's ours?
It's virtual.
It really bothers me that no one's sitting down on that comfy couch.
Yeah, well, it was offered to people.
I tried to get people to sit on it, but they won't.
The prob-
David, we have reserved it for you.
Oh, perfect.
For you.
Nothing else in it, just the-
There we are.
the problem with that sofa is that will be difficult to get up.
Yeah.
It's not bad, actually.
That
It's
was
got a
my
good-
concern.
It's, this actually has a good height, and the sofa on the side here is lower.
This one just think about 6 inches.
Yeah, it's, they're all different, they're all kind of funky, but they work.
It's a workable space. I think we will
So
make
far,
it do.
yeah, it seems to be working
Yeah.
quite well.
I see the wonderful astral gathering. Where's the special cafe part?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who's the bistro?
we decided not to do any cafe tonight.
Yeah, Joe warned me if I wanted any, I had to bring my
Bring
own.
your own.
Yeah.
No cookies.
We'd have a coffee pot and cookies and all that stuff.
I think the thought was that we'd try and work out these bugs,
Yeah,
and then we'll have to see whether, that was the furnace starting up. Did anybody hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear it?
So that could be an issue in this room. We'll have to see what happens. Anyways,
it won't be an issue with this
No.
computer because it has waveforming.
right.
So it'll just form on the human voices.
Good.
But
Yeah.
won't guarantee it when we get a webcam or something like that. That'll be a different technology.
Oh,
Right.
but the microphone can actually cancel?
It does, yeah, it's a waveforming.
Yeah, it was pretty good from this end, Chris. I could still hear you talking clearly, even though it sounded like David plugged in the coffee percolator.
Okay, good. Well, that's half the battle.
Good
Yeah,
feedback.
so just to finish off, that we'll probably, well, we'll see how we get on with maybe going back to making coffee and stuff, but I was thinking that might be more of a September thing. But we'll see.
We don't have a lot of meetings before we knock off for the summer, but we just thought we better try this out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chris and Joe, for
And the rest
getting
of
all the preparations.
here's here, so
Yes, we have some volunteer attendees.
What you did.
you see in the frame are all, have all volunteered to host, so this is a good thing. See, I wanted to get that on the record.
And this is being recorded, people.
Now tell them
You really got to have donuts if you want to keep them coming.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
it,
Maybe
yeah.
something a bit stronger, but anyway.
So,
Are we going to have a presentation or?
actually, the only person who's brought anything to my attention thus far is Lauri. So did you want to try and give us a talk about Astronomy Day?
Oh, well, I can probably start it off. There's lots of people here who are doing lots of different kinds of things for Astronomy Day. We hope as many people as can will help out either down at the museum or for the webinar or for up at the center. We're going to be at the museum from 10 until 3. And
Lauri, I'm just going to share the webpage so people can.
okay, great, thank you. And Joe's been keeping up with flurries of emails.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. So we will have our normal things of lovely scopes outside on the area around the museum. We'll be inside with telescopes with Bill Weir. We're going to be having different organizations come and have tables set up. So we've got Shawnigan Lake, Camosun College, UVic, the Friends of the DAO, Vic High, and David, help me out. Ask an Astronomer. We've got Ask an Astronomer booth, and we'll have 4 different presentations at different times. I believe they're going to be at 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, and 1:30 in the Newcomb Auditorium. Astrophotography is going to be there as well. And then Margie's going to be doing some kids crafts. And we have Science Venture coming back from UVic, who's going to be doing some work. The responsible lighting, Dave and Dorothy are going to be there. So that's going to be during the day. We do have Friday to set up, Friday from 4 to 6 to set up, but we do have to be out of the building at 6 o'clock. So we'll have to kind of arrange for when people are going to be coming. Then we're going to be, then after this is finished, it'll be finished at 3, and then we'll tear down, and hopefully everybody should be out by about a quarter or so. And then we're going to be having an online webinar that's hosted by the RASC at National, that is going to be for David St. Jacques is going to be giving a presentation and a live Q&A from Montreal. And then different centers across Canada will be joining in either live or with some recorded events of what's happening up in the sky, mostly with the moon. It really is a lunar event, sponsored in part by the Canadian Space Agency. And I just gave Joe today the registration link. And so that if you'd like to register for that webinar, it's not terrific for us because it starts at 4 and ends at 6:30, which is kind of kind of in between our two presentations. But if you register, then it'll be on YouTube and you'll be able to get everything recorded a little bit later. David, Lee, and a couple of other people, Sid and others, are going to be helping with a little bit of streaming at about 5:20 or so will be our time to be live online across Canada and from Victoria. And then at 7:30 will be the very first time that we'll be back up again at the center to open. So we're really very happy that the government has given us the permission to start again up at the center. And it'll be very much the same as what we always do. We're not really changing too much right now. We just want to get things going again. And of course, we're really pleased to have Chris Gainor. Thank you, Chris. Be our speaker for the evening, and he's going to be talking about his book on the Hubble and also on the JWST and just space telescopes in general. We will have the plasket open if it's a lovely night. And so what we have is we've put out the call for Eventbrite tickets, and we already have 75 people, like within 2 days, have already snapped up the tickets for coming up. So we do have an audience for sure. We'll probably have about 100 people, and we want about 20 volunteers for that number. We already have quite a few people have already said that they're going to be coming up and helping us. But what I'm asking tonight is if any of the RASC people still have got a little bit of life left in them after they've been at the museum, or if they decide not to go, that we'd still love to have people up on the deck or on the deck or in the parking lot to put up some telescopes as a sidewalk astronomers. And I would think if we had 5 or 6 that night, probably that would be okay. We are asking all, because we're still with the federal government, it still is on the grounds of the federal a federal facility. They are still asking for people to wear masks, and so we are going to be we're going to be giving masks to all the volunteers every night that we are up there, because we would like people to wear masks, and we're asking the public to also be masked inside and when they are dealing with people at the telescopes. So we're going to be asking for that. I mean, we can't totally mandate that or demand, but we can certainly ask politely if people will put on masks to be with you at the telescopes. I think David and Sid were talking a bit today about possible protocols for that, but we certainly hope that that some people will be able to come up And if not this one, we are going to be having 3 more. 3 more in the spring. So they're going to be May the 7th, May the 21st, June the 4th, and June the 18th are the 4 star parties in May and June. And then we are hoping that we will open for every week in July and August, but we're not sure of that yet. We have to still get a little bit more permission. Like we're kind of seeing how this works up in the hill, and then we'll move on from there to that. But we'd love to have people up. I mean, as you know, this doesn't work without all of you helping us up there all the time, and we couldn't do it without any of the people with the RASC. So if you'd like to come up with a telescope for part of the night or some of the night or something like that, please just email me and let me know, and we'll get you on the list, because you will not have to go through the Eventbrite site if you are going to be a confirmed volunteer for the evening. So, thanks. I think that's all, unless there's questions.
Dorothy, is there any limitation in the number of tickets that can be sold, given that it's federal jurisdiction? Do they have limitations?
Well, we are putting out 125 tickets, and normally we get about 20 to 25% of the people who do not come, even with the tickets. They don't show up. So we kind of know that over the years. And so we're putting out 125 and hoping for about 100 people to come up on the hill. We will increase the numbers if things go well and we feel as though we can still have everybody being safe up on the hill. So that's it for the Saturday is approximately 100 people, and then plus the 20 volunteers or so.
Bill, you need to unmute.
Bill, you're muted still?
There we go. So do we have to do the attestation that we're vaccinated to be up on the hill? Because I plan on.
Sorry, don't. The government has continued to keep that attestation for everybody who is working on the hill, who is a federal government employee, but has taken it away for groups like ours.
Okay, I just wanted to know if I needed to email someone. So you can put me on your list. I'll be there with one of my scopes.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Thank you.
And is that where we're doing the moon thing, up on the hill, or is it going to be down?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I think David, David, I think is deciding that it probably is just as easy to be up on the hill and then ready to go, because we can see where the moon is going to be from the hill fairly easily.
Yeah, Lauri, when you're done, I'll probably just speak to the crowd about that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think I am, unless there's any other questions about the evening. Thank you.
The other thing I would like to point out is on the website for the Astronomy Day event, there is a poster on there.
Yeah.
And if you look underneath, you'll see links to the poster to be printed out. And I would suggest you use this small one. It actually has a white background, and so it's easier to print.
Right.
And you can stick one on your fridge, give one to your neighbors, or whatever you like to do.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Okay, David, I think
Observatory Hill is north of town on West Sandwich Road. There's a big white observatory up on top of it.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we're going.
They'll have the gates open.
They will have the gates open, and you will need a ticket to get up, as Lauri was just telling us. Yeah, but they're free tickets, but you do need to.
they're free. Yeah, but you have to register on the Eventbrite site.
And the link was at the bottom of our page, and it's also on the Center of the Universe page.
And
Unless
all you
you're
need,
volunteering, and then you don't need a ticket.
and then you don't need the ticket. But to be perfectly honest, I mean, I don't think this will happen, but we don't want 35 or 40 volunteers to show up for 40 people. because then we're going to be over our numbers. And we're too many, we're going to have too many people. So we're trying to keep specific people in specific places so that everybody has jobs to do. And I think, but I mean, the more the merrier for being out on the deck if it's a nice night. So that would be great. Dorothy, you have your hand up.
Yes, in the old days, there was a volunteer list and we let you know. And then we were checked at the gate with a put up a sign saying volunteer.
That's right.
And they checked us off. Is that going to be the same arrangement?
Yes, it'll be the same. It'll be the same thing as if we know, and you're one of the confirmed volunteers on the list for that night, then we would have you on the list and you would be checked at the bottom of the hill. Yes.
Yeah, just so new people know, they have to let you know ahead of time that they're going to be coming up, so they'll be on
Yeah,
the
they
list.
can't. You can't just come in because otherwise.
Right.
Won't know. But what I can do is again maybe make another poster that just says RASC or FDAO volunteer, and you can print that out and put it on your car. But we still have to have your name on the list. So,
Right. We still have the original printout. It's been transferred from vehicle to vehicle.
Good. Okay. All right. There's no other.
Oh, sorry, Lauri.
Sorry. Yes. Go ahead, Dorothy.
Sorry, just I'm bringing the quite heavy poster display for the lights and lighting.
Yes.
Myself. Now, will it be can it be transported back up to the observatory, or should I do that? Or
well, at the end of the day, at the end of the afternoon, we'll make some arrangement for one of the cars to take it up. Sure.
Okay, good. I could do it, but
Yeah, good. Yeah, I don't have room to store it at home right now.
yeah, well, it should stay up at the hill now that where things are happening after this event. It'll be next needed at the hill.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. David, do you want to continue on?
Yeah, okay. I think I might, let's steal Chris's laptop here. Just to test this out. Oh, no, that doesn't work.
Well, we could spotlight you if you want to be spotlighted. Spotlit.
Maybe this will work. I'm not going to use the microphone from here. I'm going to use the microphone from the main.
One down or up, two up. One more up.
I'm taking on Chris's.
Yeah, he's Chris first.
I'm Chris tonight.
And can you spotlight me? Yes.
Oh, there I am.
He's got a halo around him.
Can you hear me?
Well, you've got a halo around you. You want to sit in the chair there? No, right here.
Oh, that's good. Oh, in the spot that David normally sits in. Oh, well.
And then if you maybe put it on the table.
Okay.
Can we get a better?
Flip it down a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that light up there.
We've got some.
That's better.
That's better.
Yep.
Okay, I got it. Let's see. Get rid of a window here. Okay. The middle event on Astronomy Day is something that's going to be broadcast across Canada. So I need a little bit of help. I'm thinking that if there's bad weather, I'm hoping to maybe produce some video clips of us looking at the moon before this. In fact, I want to have that in my back pocket. Other than that, I think on the day, if it's good, I'd like to be on the hill, maybe just a little bit after the RBCM event with a few people that are kind of trained on the moon. Now the moon is going to be visible, so there's no fakery here. I mean, we're actually able to look at the moon. So I think Sid said he already said that he might help. And David, did you say that you were coming down for the day anyways?
That's David Payne.
Is David Payne there?
Yeah, he is, but he's me.
Oh, okay. Anyways,
Yes, I am.
if you're coming down for the day, maybe you can that as well.
I was gonna put my telescope in my car, if that's,
Yeah, there's telescopes up on the hill too. I mean, we've got some Dobbs and other
then
things.
I'll leave it here.
Yeah, up to you.
I'll have a car full of telescopes.
Then maybe Bill's gonna join us.
And then you'll want something with a camera though, right, for the broadcast?
I will have my own camera.
So you're gonna film the moon
I'll
through
be-
your.
I won't be using telescopes. I'll be filming you guys.
Okay, gonna do it that way?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, if anybody's interested in that little mini project, certainly just let me know and we'll start making arrangements for it. Okay, thanks.
It's interesting. Some people may notice that Joe's bobbing up and down and keeps getting closer to the computer again because our left monitor keeps timing out, I think. Is it thinking there isn't a signal to it or something? I'm not sure.
It needs an update, so we'll let it do that after the meeting.
Yeah, we tried to force it to do that because, of course, this TV had not been turned on for 2 years. And it's a smart TV, so of course it wants to update the Android operating system. And of course it waits till tonight to do it, even though it's been plugged in for 10 days. Anyways, it's...
Let's not get into the Android thing.
Yes.
We have Android believers on.
Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, so are there more questions about Astronomy Day, or we think we're good?
I think we are good. All we are looking for a clear skies.
Yes. So so you're in charge of that, Sid.
It's when I stand up that thing goes black.
Isn't that interesting? So it knows you're moving.
There we are.
Okay, so next, Brock has a photograph from Saturday.
Yes.
Let's see how the sharing worked for us to see and hear. So.
Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, hold on. It's not that one. It's this one. Can you guys see star field with some galaxies?
Yes.
Okay, this Saturday night, I had heard rumor of a supernova, and in the Virgo, in near M60, which is this large guy here, there's a smaller galaxy that's NGC 4647, and this star here wasn't there a matter of days ago, apparently. So,
before image.
Sorry, I don't have a before image. I just this was last minute, just getting my image. It's very roughly processed too. So but I thought I'd show it off. But in the before image is pretty much exactly the same without that, but I didn't take a before image. But I don't know if anyone else knows the exact day when it was noticed, but
I heard about it like 3 or 4 days ago, Brock. First.
Okay. Yeah. I know Bill had drawn it, and Martin, I was already set up to do another target, and I texted Martin, and he said, well, why aren't you doing this one? I was like, that's a good question. So I did that.
Can you estimate the magnitude of the supernova from your image?
I probably could if I went into the software, but I would have to do a bit of work. But
I'm guessing it's about 12th to 13th magnitude.
Yeah.
Because I could pick it up the next night with my 6-inch.
Oh, okay.
So, under really horrible conditions because it wasn't great on Sunday night.
Bill,
What
did it look like? Just a dim star?
Yeah. Well, with my 20-inch, it was a bright star.
Right.
Oh, really?
With my 6-inch, it took magnification to get it to show steady. I was at like 240 times to get it to show steady.
Wow.
Cool.
Okay, that furnace starting up again. Did you hear?
And I guess while I'm here, there's another picture I don't think I've shared with this group, which was a shot I got of M82. This is actually at the beginning of the month. It's just been such a crappy month. There hasn't been much going on, but
that's neat.
But this one was with a dual narrowband filter, so it really enhanced the hydrogen alpha emissions. So,
Brock, could you go back to the other one for a minute?
of course.
I'm just fascinated with all the stuff that is in that picture.
Oh, I know. There's so many
much,
galaxies.
so many galaxies
Yeah.
in the background there. Holy crow, that's beautiful.
So many different.
It's the Virgo supercluster.
It is.
Oh,
Oh, no, there's only one galaxy. Funny, some of the history books there when that was a common view at one point. Now look at this one. Eh?
Yeah.
Crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
this one and that
no
one.
shortage of galaxies in
That
there.
one. And there was a little trio there. Yeah, look, are those stars? Or sorry, that little triangle that was, go back where you were. There you go. The
That
little triangle.
I probably it could well be galaxies. It's hard. I had terrible guiding that night, so I've got a lot of footballs, but and I think it was two-dimensionally bad, so everything's a bit bigger than it should be. But I gotta.
No, it's amazing. It's just spectacular. Oh.
It was hard to see the other galaxies when you're on the other side of the flat Earth.
How do I unshare now? I'm trying to get.
Could you remind me, which way is north, which is west in this? I haven't looked at this part. Of this.
Oh, I had an annotated version, but
That's north up.
is it north up right now?
Yeah, because 46, 47 is northwest of M60.
Okay.
I was going to ask you that, Brock, if you had run it through the plate solve with astrometry. Obviously.
Yeah, I have a picture. I'd have to dig around for it. It's actually got all the marks on it, and it actually had the RA and deck lines, but I don't know where I put that. So
It'd be interesting to see what the count is, the count of galaxies is.
I cannot find the little thing to unshare here. Where did it go? Never had this problem before.
It should be near the top of your screen.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking for the top of the screen.
Sorry, yes. We can stop it, or Joe can stop it if you
Move
want.
your cursor up there.
Yeah, I'm trying it. All the little. That's weird.
Did it move to your bottom screen this time? Sometimes it does that.
Oh, there it is. Okay, stop share. I had to minimize that thing. It was maximized and it was hiding it.
It went off the screen.
Chris, I have a couple of from last week too, if that's doable.
Go for it.
Malcolm asked for how bright the supernova was again.
I don't know if we know for sure.
We don't know.
But Bill's thought, what, 12, 13th mag somewhere in there?
Okay.
We'll have to try Google and see.
Oh, I thought we'd lost you for a second. Everyone's sitting still. Quiet.
We're still here. We're waiting for you to perform.
Oh, waiting for me.
You're up.
You said no pressure.
Every one of them.
Okay.
So why isn't, oh, here we go. Okay. Well, this is just the latest and greatest of M81.
Got to show this one off. It's pretty deep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got some IFN in the background, and I threw some, here's where stars are forming in Bode's galaxy with the red dots.
Incredible.
It's a pretty good view. There's some curious things. There's lots of galaxies in the background. This one, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but there's one over here. Yep. You know, you just scan around and you can see them. There was one over on this side. Get rid of that. But what I really wanted to show you, I'm having same difficulty as Brock. Let me get this out of the way.
because the monitor here is big.
Here's a needle galaxy I took a few days ago. I was curious about this because on one side of the needle galaxy, there's a whole bunch of nebulosity, these little pink areas where there's hydrogen forming stars. And on the other side, there isn't any.
It's blue.
And I'm wondering if what you're seeing here is the leading edge of an arm, and this side you might be seeing the trailing edge, or vice versa. Whether the dust trails the gas or whatever. And that's just me speculating as to what I'm seeing. Okay.
So are you thinking it might be redshifted a bit, just enhancing that, or what?
No, it's not. I don't think it's red shifting. I think it's just that the dust is blocking it on one side.
Okay.
And you can see it on the other side because it's edge on. I guess that would maximize the red shift too. Here's a failed image of 3 galaxies. I didn't get it centered right because I outsmarted myself. But this galaxy here, this is one of the it's an elliptical galaxy, but there's another elliptical galaxy. It's more of an ellipse, NGC 3384. And what I was doing was proofing my initial images when I saw something funny happen. And here's a movie. If you keep your eye down here, you see this little interloper traveling across my image. It's moving with the stars. And I looked it up based on its location and its magnitude, and it's actually an asteroid called Courser 5116 Courser. And that period that you see it moving from the right-hand side over to the left-hand side, the transit of the galaxy, if you will, took 5 hours. And that figures into an orbital period of 5.5 years. But it was really interesting that I happened to be sort of QCing the data on this galaxy. If I hadn't been, I would have missed that thing totally.
Would you have
Excellent work,
Dave? Would you have spotted it by blinking when you were culling the frames?
Yes. So what I do is I usually, when I'm blinking, I usually zoom in to capture a few stars and the subject matter of the picture. So that was the galaxy. But if it had happened away from the galaxy,
you wouldn't have spotted it.
I wouldn't have spotted it. Yeah. The other way you can spot it, of course, is if you look at your rejected pixels, you can see a line where the asteroid was and wasn't. Right. And so when you stack, it says, hey, this one picture has something here, but none of the other frames have that there. So that rejects it out. And if you look at what's been rejected, you would have seen.
You really shouldn't auto reject your dismissed pixels then.
No, something like that could easily be missed. And maybe you're not interested in it, but I certainly was thrilled to see it. So
how can you prove that's not a UFO?
I can't. But it goes back to Brock's. How do you know those are other galaxies? It could be a Rene Descartes sort of mind.
Are you really seeing that?
What's that?
Are you really seeing it, or you just think it's there?
Yeah, reality is fleeting.
That's right. And then finally, I've got I call M65 and M66. They're 2 of the 3 galaxies called the Leo triplet. But I thought they're kind of interesting because they're about the same size, about the same distance apart. and they both influenced each other. But the one on the right, which is M66, I believe, is nicely behaved. It's got some nice dust lanes going around. And then over on M66 on the lower left there, it's like all havoc is let loose. There's a whole bunch of really young stars showing up blue, and more of those pink star forming hydrogen gas star forming regions showing in pink, and the arms are all not behaved well, and I thought it was interesting, the contrast there. But just with Brock's, the same thing. When you look in Leo, you see galaxies all over the place, and there's a little one right here, right here. There's an interesting one. I think it's up here. No, can't remember where they all are now. But
David, when you compare those two galaxies like you just described, and if you were to, from experience, make summation about the galaxy on the left, would you say it's more chaotic because it's newer forming, or more chaotic because it's an older galaxy, or is time any relevance to the chaos versus the stability?
I think the instability arose through the interaction of the gravity of one of these galaxies, and also the Hamburger galaxy is just off the frame here too. So these galaxies are interacting. I think they're about the same age, I think, but it's interesting how, you'd think they'd both be erratic if the influence was large, or they'd both be well formed if the interaction was small. But just to see one nice and orderly and the other more chaotic was kind of interesting. And it might have to do, like, this one is more, this is more like a barred, classified as a barred galaxy, kind of like the Milky Way. And this one is just a grand spiral, I guess, more like Andromeda.
With your comment one, Dave,
Yeah.
do you have that rejected file so we could see? I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I do have it. I'll stop sharing, and I'll try and bring it up and share later.
Thank you.
It'll take me a second to look for it. So it's nice to have a few clear nights nowadays.
Yeah, there were some nice clear periods during the day today, briefly. But it's still a bit changeable. Maybe while you're looking for that, Martin, you had something to share, I believe, and then we can come back to you, Dave.
Sure.
I have some pictures.
Yeah.
Kel surprise from the group. Let me see if I can get to. Get to that. Are you guys seeing my? Are you seeing anything right now?
Yeah, we're seeing you.
There, and then it went away.
You seeing me? Let me try that one more time.
It looked
I
like
can
it
see.
started and then it stopped, I think.
Yeah, just give me a second.
That's where having more than one screen helps a lot.
Has this system changed? Why are we all struggling with the Zoom thing tonight? It's not wanting to do what I want it to do. Okay, let me try this. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Are you seeing that?
Yep.
Great. All right. That won't let me see my cursor. Okay, so I think I showed this on the last one, so this is just the end of this one. But this is I've just done some pictures, the same as Brock and David, in fact, we're all pretty much shooting the same things, except I didn't have a southerly sky to look at on the weekend, which is why I texted Brock and said, shoot that supernova. So this is Messier 106 from a few nights ago. These are all with the 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain, which I'm still fettling. I'm still trying to get it right.
Looks pretty good.
Discovered some issues with this. If anybody has the if anybody's decided to buy the Celestron dew heater ring for the SCTs, I have some words of advice on it. I've discovered an interesting anomaly that dew heater appears to create if you run it too warm. But that's perhaps for a different meeting. That's a little, just a bit of a close up on the details of that. Obviously I'm shooting, all of my stuff is shot very differently to David's and Brock's. David's using a small house worth of exquisite equipment, and also using specific astro cameras, as is Brock. And mine are all just shot with a DSLR attached to whatever telescope I'm using. This is a version of Messier 101 that I did, which I'm still working on. Nearly all. One of the things that I find with this, as a terrestrial photographer trying to figure out how to do astrophotography, is trying to figure out when to stop with these images. There's a very obvious place for me when I'm editing, day job pictures, but it's not so easy, I find, with Astro. I'm kind of, chances are this file is called version 422 of this picture, because you take that data and you massage it and work with it, and eventually you're happy with it for about 5 minutes, and then you hate it again. That's a quick plate solve on that. One of the things I find interesting about Messier 101, which I didn't realize until I actually did a deeper plate solve on this, was that there are portions of Messier 101 that actually have their own NGC catalog numbers as well. So there's all these other portions in the spiral arms, which kind of blew my mind, that there's a whole bunch of NGC's catalog items in there as well. So this was from a few nights ago. One thing I learned very interesting, that I'm sure most of you already know, but I didn't know this, was about and it's about a book that I just finished reading, and I'll put that as a book recommend at the end, is that the spiral arms, the way that they're created is not through spirality, so to speak, but by a resonance within the galaxy, which is something that kind of blew my mind, and I'm still trying to figure out what it actually means. But I thought that was pretty interesting. As David did, I also photographed the Needle Galaxy, NGC 4565. You'll notice the colors are very different on mine. This is, again, partly because David shoots with a monochrome camera and filtration, and shoots specifically for hydrogen alpha and stuff like that, whereas I'm literally shooting all this with a one-shot color digital SLR, and also a digital SLR that isn't modified either, so it doesn't have the infrared. It still has the infrared cut filter on there. And then also I too did Messier 82. Quite different to Brock's, again, because Brock used a dual narrowband filter, so he got much more of that red hydrogen alpha in there. And I just I drizzled this so that I had as much data to play with and to be able to crop and move around here as I wanted to try and frame it. There's a portion of this that's fascinating to me, and if anybody can tell me how to plate solve with more detail, so the sort of trapezium of stars that's in the upper left, where the two bright ones, and then there's two other bright ones that are very close together. Inside of that trapezium, there's just so many different objects, but I don't really know what they are. I can assume that they're galaxies, distant galaxies, but nothing Nova astrometry doesn't plate solve them. Pixel Insight doesn't plate solve them to anything. Starry Night doesn't. Stellarium doesn't. So I don't know what those objects are. So if anybody's got any tips on how to find out more detail in this kind of stuff than is commonly available, I'm all ears. If we zoom into that as well, you can see there's a bit more detail and a glorious satellite trail going straight through the bottom of the frame as well, which hasn't rejected quite perfectly in there. So again, this is another one that I'm working on. I'm working on the data to try and make it pleasing to me.
So what you can get? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, what did you say?
Just a planetarium software. So once you know the coordinates, you can go to a planetarium software and go to those.
Oh, you're talking about for figuring out what that area is up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried doing it in Starry Night. I've run it through Pixel Insights, Plate Solve using Gaia. I've used all sorts of different things, and it won't tell me what all those things are in there. It just doesn't tell me this.
Do you have a additional catalog loaded? Or
I have Gaia loaded. I have is it ASPS? There's all sorts of different ones.
You usually have to specify what magnitude. So the bigger the file, the higher.
Maybe we can go through it on the Astrophotos sig later this week, because I'd love to get more detail on what that is. It's fascinating. Just like Lauri was saying earlier on, it just fascinates me when you've got these clusters of information. And actually, this is the next one is an old picture but I just quickly plate solved it for Lauri if she's still here. This is that same area, the Virgo cluster and the Markarian's chain and stuff. This is a picture I did a few weeks ago with a refractor. And when you plate solve this, it's just galaxies, galaxies, galaxies everywhere. It's just such a mind-blowing piece of the sky and something I never really tire of looking at. So if Lauri's still on, that one's for you. And that's a little bit of a detail of Markarian's chain in particular. And yeah, I know somebody was talking about it earlier on, but yeah, I did a post on my Instagram page just recently about the fact that, it's literally less than 100 years since it's 102 years since the great debate about between Heber Curtis and Shapley about whether these were galaxies, whether these nebular items were inside of our galaxy, or if these were indeed island universes outside of our galaxy. So it still blows my mind that it's such recent times that we've been able to, it was Hubble in 1924 who finally was able to say, no, these are definitely outside of our galaxy. And the fact that that happened within the last 100 years is still extraordinary to me. And I just wanted to finish with this book recommend. I just finished reading this. It's I believe Jean-René Roy is a Canadian astronomer. But this book is, as you can see, Unveiling Galaxies. They're all of images in astronomical discovery. It's absolutely fascinating because it's not just about astrophotography. It's also about how drawing was, started to help people to work on astronomical discoveries, and then moving into obviously glass plate and then digital stuff. But it also covers the role of radio astronomy and synoptic images and stuff like that. It's a absolutely fascinating read, and I've finally learned not to hold a book up here, so it does the strange stuff that we can't see the book. So that's it, Jean-René Roy, Unveiling Galaxies, and that's me for this week.
Martin, I had a question. You were talking about a book you're reading, referring to the spiral arm formation being through resonance. Was that resonance magnetic, gravitational, or audio, or something else?
I'd have to go back to whichever that particular bit was in the book, because it was I read it about a week ago, and it's just been stuck in my head that it was to do with resonances rather than rather than a motion, because it's who knew? Presumably a few people in this group knew, but I didn't. So yeah, I'll look up the relevant part of that and I'll email it to you.
Thanks.
So Martin,
Yeah.
I put into I put into the chat a link to Simbad,
Okay.
which is where you can find out what everything is. You're a smart guy, you can figure out how to make it all work. But you put in coordinates and it will tell you what something is. And if it doesn't seem quite right, you can sort of expand the view and it will give you all the objects around something. It's the
Grand.
scientific link to all the scientific stuff.
Grand. Yeah, I was getting a little because I've done quite a lot of plate solving stuff, and I love the plate solver in PixInsight because it gives you some really staggering detail that can just obliterate your whole image. But there's just nothing was picking up that quarter for some reason. I couldn't figure out why.
No.
And it's a fascinating quarter. If I just quickly let me just do this real quick. I'm just going to share this real quick here so you can see what I mean. Share screen. Let's see if we can manage it this time. There you go. In one. So it's this area here, look, and you can just see all these little faint fuzzies in there. It's just
you just need to drop the coordinates into Simbad and it will tell you whatever, if that is an identified galaxy.
Yeah.
It might not.
And I would imagine that to Dave's point, if I change the magnitude limits, it'll probably find something as well. So that'd be grand.
Some of them you need to know what time it is too.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the things that I found, and this is getting in the weeds a little bit, but I find that the PixInsight plate solver is really finicky sometimes, and sometimes it just won't do it. But what I have found is that if you squirt a quick JPEG out, put that into NovaAstrometry.net, let that solve, and then take the coordinates and stuff that gives you, and then put that back into PixInsight, then PixInsight plate solving works. So
yeah, the astronomy.net is a blind solver, so you don't need to know where you are, whereas most of the fine plate solvers, you have to know approximately where you are.
Yeah.
You have to get your focal length and pixel size correct.
But there's some things that throws PixInsight off that are just like if you've drizzled, for instance, you're trying to get it back from drizzling, or if you've cropped an image post done any processing, PixInsight just fails. So that's why I do the blind one in astrometry and the Nova one.
Yeah, if you drizzle, you have to change your pixel size, right?
Yeah, well, the plate solver in PixInsight automatically halves your
oh, okay.
It changes your pixel size automatically, but I don't know. There's sometimes when PixInsight just hates me, and it's and I don't know why, but there you go.
All the time.
That's written into the source code, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You're all going to need therapy.
That's it. Yes. Use PixInsight and have therapy.
You know what I was telling Brock the other day. I've worked in graphic software now for 30 years, and PixInsight is literally probably in the last 20 years is the only thing I've ever had to buy a book for. It's kind of willfully obtuse from time to time with stuff that you just think, why don't you call that thing the same thing as every other application on the planet calls it? But anyway, rant over.
Thank you, Martin.
Thanks. Good shots.
Dave, did you find what you were looking for?
Oh, yes. Okay.
We're still fiddling with TVs here, but they're sort of working. I don't know what's the update, I think.
I can't find the update.
Let's see, am I sharing that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So here's the rejection from the files. And you see the typical things on here. You see this satellite went through, that would have been on one frame. And you can see some of the really bright stars. If there was any issue with seeing or focus or anything like that on the odd frame, or guiding might have been off a little bit, you can see pixels that as the star changes shape and position, it rejects those. And you can see just a faint outline where the galaxies are. So if you see a good outline of the galaxy, you're rejecting too many. But here's just a line that ends, that would be something you wouldn't expect to see. So you would have, let's see if I can zoom in here.
So Dave, this is just for people that don't use PixInsight. This is a frame that shows you pixels that don't occur on all frames.
Right. So it says, or it's an outlier, so it throws it away.
Right.
And so it's actually a picture of all the outliers. So if you can imagine that galaxy's core is right about here, and here is the asteroid coming through, and you know that each one of these, there's just a line of circles, and each circle would have been the asteroid appearing on that frame, because the frame lasts for let's say 2.5 to 3 minutes. So the asteroid doesn't really move in an individual frame, but then it goes to take some different colors with different filters, and then it comes back to this filter again, takes another frame, and the asteroid is moved over a little bit. So that would have been spotted. But you know, if you automate this process, you never look at these rejection screens, and so you would miss it. So there's just a bit of a, you know, and you know, I've often found myself looking at these going, why am I bothering with this? Just give me the final result.
So Dave, you could just toss these into a folder for a rainy day when you want to kind of look for stuff like this.
I guess you could. If you got a big lot of disk space. Okay. So those are all those images are on our Zenfolio site. So if you ever want to look at them at your leisure.
So how's everybody hanging in there? Is it still working? Very good. Yeah,
I think it's great.
I think this is, there'll be some bumps along the way, but I think this is going to work. So
This is actually very strange, Chris, because I'm by myself in the living room.
Yeah.
On cafe, and now there's people around me.
So you're kind of going, yeah.
Kind of
weird, isn't it?
odd sensation.
It is.
Just think when there's a room full of people, it's gonna be. Yeah.
And you're fully dressed now, David.
Yeah, not just.
Yeah, we all have to wear pants.
I was always afraid of the camera falling down.
Yeah, very good. Does anybody else have anything for this evening?
So is the Astronomy Cafe next week going to take place there?
Well, it should be, so the theory is a bigger group could be here, but we'll still try and Zoom, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to try and do this, but maybe have more people here.
So we'll have to do more setup here than we did tonight, basically.
Put
just-
up chairs and stuff.
Yeah, we'll clear stuff out, make it a little more presentable, but other than that, from the people who decide to stay home, it'll be more or less the same. The technical side of things is working fine, so.
It's just kind of figuring out what to do because it's a little different.
It is.
For us, and trying to figure out what's going on. But thank you for a couple of people who have volunteered via chat. So that was very useful because and because I've got my laptop here, I can read the chat full on there. So yeah, that's good. Yeah, so I think that's all we have for this evening.
I was hoping that, oh, did I freeze?
No, you're still good on our end.
Okay, I was hoping that Chris would be sharing with us some James Webb stuff, because I read, and maybe it's dated, but I read that they finally got to the lowest Kelvin temperature they needed. Is that right, Chris?
That's right. Yeah, they've basically done that, but now they're still doing a lot of fine fiddling and adjusting. So that's a nice thing, but it's we're still kind of a month or maybe a bit more than a month away from pay dirt. That picture I showed the last time I gave a presentation, it showed that star they were aiming at very bright, but then you could see all these little galaxies in the background. That was kind of getting us really close to where we want to be. So I think that was the near cam, and now they're kind of adjusting everything with the other instruments, but they haven't kicked out any new pictures or anything.
Okay, so even though they got it to the right temperature to do that, they haven't populated anything yet.
No, if they had, I would be showing them. So I'm keeping an eye on it, but aside from that kind of factoid, it's not much excitement yet, but we'll see what we get in a few weeks, or perhaps sooner. Given that they sometimes have delivered a little sooner and stuff.
Lauri.
I was wondering if anybody is interested in two different things. I would love to have a couple of people demonstrate the Great Debate. If there's anybody that knows about that, because I know basically, but I've not done any really major reading over it or exactly what happened. But I'm wondering if there are some people that might be able to recreate some of the main ideas in the Great Debate. I think that would be really actually quite neat to do. And the other one is to have a bit of a debate over what's happening with space right now and space tourism and the money that's going into that and what the difference is between I shouldn't say real astronauts, or the NASA based astronauts or other countries versus the what's happening with some of the space tourism. I'd love to have a little bit of some debate on that as well. Some things for the future. Thanks.
I'd love to have a debate on that.
Looks like it's
but I have to.
Hey, maybe you and Martin should take it on.
There you go.
So, Lauri, this book I'm holding here is a whole book about the Great Debate.
Oh, you mean I'm going to have to do some more reading? Oh, darn. Okay. No, I just thought maybe somebody else would be able to do it for me.
Well, we have some historians here, so maybe.
Yeah, we do have some historians. Yeah.
We're just old people.
Chris, has anybody done something like that or thoughts through that at the national level?
No, I think the author of that book is a friend of mine. And I think if he was here, he would be horrified by your idea. Because the Great Debate, you know, if you were kind of around 100 years ago when it took place, it would make more sense than it would to us. I think
Yes.
that's the kindest way to put it, because they were both kind of a little confused and not exactly sure what was going on. So if we were to make a presentation about it, I think people would find it kind of confusing.
Okay.
But I would. It's been a while since I've done any reading about it, but you know, Robert, my friend, I think sort of thinks, you know, I mean, it's an interesting topic, but he thinks that the event itself was kind of a little bit overblown.
Oh, okay. Okay.
YouTube has a bunch of stuff. If you want to go there, you don't have to read it.
I actually like your other idea a little better, you know, and maybe I could talk about that, you know, because in terms of what's going on in space, we're going through some, you know, major transformations right now. I mean, you know, the arrival of kind of space tourism, you know, we had that spacecraft return to Earth today with the three billionaires. That's kind of an interesting development. You know, I think it's going to hasten the day when people whose incomes are a little closer to ours will be able to go into space. I'm not sure whether any of us are going to be able to benefit from that, but I think it's important. And, you know, I mean, all the stuff that's going on in Ukraine. I mean, one of the casualties of that is the Russian space program. And, you know, and it's interesting, you know, it was barely a year or two ago when the only way to get into space was on a Russian spacecraft. And now they're basically, you know, and they are still going to be flying, but they're kind of on their way to the second rank of players in the space business. You know, the arrival of SpaceX has taken up a lot of the business that the Russians used to have. The cut rate business is now in SpaceX. And then we have the Starship just around the corner, which, if it works, will be amazing. And yeah, so and the Chinese are also getting their act together too.
But, you know, I think the issue is it's unregulated. It's like the Wild West, right? There's no one regulating the whole thing. And how does someone get the authority to regulate what's going on, right?
Well, I mean, there is some regulation in terms of activities coming out of the United States, you know, including SpaceX. You know, one of the reasons why the Starship hasn't flown yet this year is because the Federal Aviation Administration in the U.S. And right now, so much of the business is in the U.S. that all is regulated. I mean, you can't particularly regulate what the Chinese are doing, or the Soviets for that matter, but they're still way behind the U.S.
Yeah, see, Elon just puts whatever satellites up he wants, right?
Who, Musk?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. And he's always complaining about the FAA and all this stuff. So, you know,
well, so now he's going to own the mechanism, and he's also going to own the platform with Twitter. So
yeah,
I've heard someone describe Elon Musk as he thinks he's Tony Stark, and he's actually closer to Lex Luthor. And I think that's probably that's not a bad summation. I think the fact that he's going to have the fact that he currently has a license for I think almost 52,000 satellites for his constellation is and the fact that it's one person and one company that's going to own that is mind-boggling to me. And it's mind-boggling that we are all fine with that. It blows my mind. But I've been ranting about that for at least 2 years now.
Who can stop? Who's
Well, the FAA keep granting him the licenses for the satellites, right? So the FAA keeps saying, "Oh, sure, you want another 42,000? Fine, you have to have those licenses." So the FAA, you're making licenses for him to fly 50 satellites up at a time, and regardless of whether anybody in Indonesia cares about whether they're flying overhead, or anybody in Russia cares that they're flying overhead, or anybody in Canada cares overhead. Yeah, I'm gonna have to stop because I'm gonna run out of my blood pressure meds if I keep talking about Starlink. It's such an appallingly spun story that it makes me crazy, because he keeps talking about it, bringing internet to people who are poorly served and stuff like that. It's all tosh. It's all to do with his Mars aspirations, and it's all to do with raising funds for that. And he's said that out loud, that it's designed to fund his Mars explorations, and it's baffling to me. It's baffling to me that there's so many people who, there's a very famous meme that goes around on the internet where it's to do with how defensive Musk supporters get online, and there are scientists, the Katie Max and the planetary guys and stuff like that, who basically, if they say anything about Musk, they have to duck for the next 2 days off Twitter because everybody starts attacking them for stuff. It's mind-boggling. And now he's going to own Twitter, so that's something else I can't use for a while. I did have can I just add something to what Lauri was saying about the great debate stuff? I just got something in the post that I did on Instagram, which Musk doesn't own yet, so I can still keep using that. I did some research into it myself, and what I found interesting was these days, if you think about the Event Horizon Telescope people with the black hole picture, the secrecy that surrounded that, the secrecy that surrounded the teams that were at the LIGO gravitational waves discovery, the secrecy that surrounded those discoveries prior to them releasing their papers and going public with it is in stark contrast to how Hubble, because I would say that probably after the Copernicus sort of heliocentrism change paradigm shift, the next one is probably is Edwin Hubble being able to tell us that these nebula are actually outside of our galaxy, and by calculating the redshift on the Cepheids and stuff like that, being able to tell that they were so much further away than we could possibly have imagined at that point, is fairly paradigm shifting. And I just want to show you how it was announced to the world, because there's a quote in this book from Alan Sandage who said, what are galaxies no one knew before 1900, very few people knew in 1920, all astronomers knew after 1924. Well, Hubble's paper wasn't put out until 1925. So how did everybody know in 1924? Well, I'll show you. So this was in the New York Times. So it's literally 30 lines of information, and they spelled Hubble's name incorrectly, which is another kind of, I'm about to blow your minds. Please spell my name correctly, for goodness sake. But this is how it appeared. It appeared in the New York Times in December of 1924. Just below this is on page 6, by the way. Just below this was an advertisement for a New York store that sells fur coats and stuff. But this is it. This is literally the announcement of Hubble saying that these island universes were, basically confirming Curtis over Shapley, and saying that these nebula were island universes. So that was it. that was the announcement that came out, which I tried to find it. I knew what date it had happened, so I went to the New York Times archives to try and find it, and I could not find any reference to it on that date. And then I found one little piece of information somewhere else that told me that they'd spelled the name Hubble incorrectly, and then I was able to find this. So that was it. A huge piece of news, and shared in the New York Times very quickly, as opposed to in the scientific paper. So there you go, Lauri.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Martin, you might be interested. The latest Physics Today magazine this is the American Physical Society's news magazine that comes out every month. It has a very interesting article on the problems of all of these satellites for the future time, because they've got some pictures. I might be able to show you one if I can just share the screen for a sec. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if you'll be able to see this very well, but this is an article about ballooning satellite populations in low Earth orbit.
Mm-hmm.
And this shows a picture of what the sky looks right now. This is future times. And look at this one.
Yeah.
This is just based on the number that are planned by SpaceX and other companies that are doing the same thing. It looks pretty scary.
There's a whole bunch of them. There's one tail in Canada. There's Jeff Bezos obviously has his own constellation, because that's the kind of world we're living in. There's India have got one, China have got one. There's all these mega constellations that are in the offing, and of course the sort of the sort of the rampant. There's several parts of it. I mean, part of it is just the thing that I think that bothers me the most is that we, the 7 billion people of Earth, are having zero say in the fact that our night skies will forever look different. I remember as a kid, looking up and it was in the 70s, and it was kind of a game to try and spot a satellite, because it was like trying to sort of see a UFO or something like that. And now there's no way to look at the sky for an hour or two after sunset and an hour or two before sunrise without seeing them. And I don't know if anybody here has actually seen what a Starlink train looks like, which is, the Starlinks go up in a batch of 50 and they're all in one long line, and it literally looks like Star Wars laser beam flying across the sky. It's I don't know, probably last time I looked, it's probably that far apart, whatever that is in arc, and it's just a white line. It's not even dots. It doesn't, when you first see them, it doesn't even resolve into dots. It's just a white line that goes across the sky, and it's mesmerizing and terrifying. So the one thing is that there's the reduction in data that astronomers are going to have from these tens of thousands of satellites. The other thing is, just as humans, we're not going to be able to see the sky in the same way. In terms of light pollution, I've seen studies done that have shown that the amount of satellites is going to change the amount of artificial brightness of the sky by about 10% when all these satellites up here. So just changing the night sky on its own by up to 10% because of satellites. It's mind-boggling. And then of course the second part to all of this is not all of those 50 that go up at any one time, not all of them work. So some of them then have to be deorbited, and then they come and they burn up in the atmosphere. And of course, you know, we have this glorious feeling of burning up in the atmosphere being, oh, poof, they've gone. But of course, that garbage is now vaporized and sitting in the atmosphere. And the more times that happens, the more garbage. It's not physical pieces, but it's vaporized junk that's in the atmosphere. And then, of course, the Russians managed to shoot down one of their own satellites as a test at the end of last year. And if anybody ever wants to become truly terrified about lower Earth orbit satellites, Google Kessler syndrome, because the Kessler syndrome, if that ever were to come to fruition, our usage of lower Earth orbit comes to an end for the foreseeable future, because if a satellite is destroyed, it becomes lots of bits, and if those bits hit another lots of bits, they create more bits, and suddenly, if the scientist Kessler who came up with that concept, if that happens, if that runaway train happens, you can't even launch rockets because you won't be able to launch through that.
So there's two solutions, Martin. One, you buy some shares in SpaceX and go to the AGM and say, I don't want you sending satellites up anymore. And the second one is to write to, it's democracy. Or you write to your legislators and say, I don't want any, put some regulation that limits the amount of stuff going into the sky. That's how you stop it.
Best of luck with that, because the International Astronomical Union have sent multiple documents to the FAA, to the SpaceX. They have published. They've got a published website now with all this data on there. You know, it's fine to say that's how democracy works, but this stuff isn't democratic. This stuff isn't democratic because it's a commercial enterprise, and there's bugger all that you, me, or the International Astronomical Union can do about it.
Yeah,
I think Dave's point is a good one, though. I think Dave's point is a good one because it isn't logic that stops these things. It's democracy when enough people care about it.
Well, that's kind of why I share this information with other people that might care about it.
You can make logical arguments till the cows come home and nobody will pay any attention.
Blockade Ottawa, and all of a sudden you get people's attention.
It almost sounds like you could go on top of the green initiative that the millennials and the youth are interested in. And if you advocated that the FAA go ahead and grant your license for free enterprise, but when I look at a future picture of those satellites, I'm thinking to myself, if every one of those satellites was up there had to emit ozone in order to be there, it would solve another problem we have. And maybe together the world would become more globally focused when they're doing these things rather than, you know, centrically focused. But there's probably ways to get it, but we need advocacy and awareness like you're doing right here to make people know. I mean, I remember when I was a kid sitting at Sylvan Lake looking at the night sky and so excited I saw a shooting star. And maybe in my lifetime I saw 3 or 4, of which 2 I was told were actually satellites, which was disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine 20 years from now, right?
Yeah. Speaking of shooting stars, has anybody seen the Lyrids last week? I saw the 2 of the brightest shooting stars I've ever seen on the weekend. Were absolutely. I was in the process of thinking about setting up a telescope, and I just stood there, and I was just. It started from way over there, and I kept on expecting it to fizzle out, and it just didn't fizzle out. It just went all the way across. It was absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, I looked at that last picture that was shown there in the article. I think, John, you had it up. Just looked like a future Star Trek movie with all this stuff orbiting a planet. And I thought, man, if every one of those satellites just emitted a little bit of ozone, we probably wouldn't have the greenhouse problem we have now.
It reminded me of the Borg collective.
We're kind of
The what?
That's like the BC government reminds me of that.
So there's, I know that the international, as I say, the international astronomy, I can send all this data out to people that are interested. The IAU put out a fairly substantial document on this. I know that RASC themselves have published an open letter / document to the powers that be for this kind of stuff. It's I mean, it's not going to stop. I don't think it's going to stop. And the problem is, it's not a problem, you know, like I think about, you know, the problem of greenhouses and stuff. You know, the greenhouse lighting and light pollution from that. And all of the problems about ground-based light pollution are solvable in a instant way. When I say instant, I mean what I mean is if they do something, it stops the problem. You know, so for instance, there are greenhouses in. It was in this month's Sky News. The greenhouses that are putting roof blackout blinds on the roof, and as soon as they do that, the light pollution is gone. It's not like, you know, it's not like a polluted river which can take, you know, 20 years to recover from once you stop doing to it what you're doing to it. But the problem with the satellite stuff is there's no changing that. There's no going back from this position that we're in. And people have appealed to SpaceX in particular for Starlink, you know, and he sent up tried to reduce the albedo on them and called them dark sats and painted them and this, that, and the other. And of course, the problem with when you paint them dark is that they then start to absorb heat, and if they absorb heat, they fail. So it's not a particularly good business model to send satellites up that are going to fail. So it's just it's you know, it's just one of those things that you feel like smarter people than me, you know, should have been thinking about this before they granted. I think Starlink have 42,000. I think the 50,000 is when I started factoring in the Blue Origin stuff and OneTel and the British consortium that are doing it and stuff like that. So,
can I interrupt?
Yeah.
We need to clear the room here because the cleaners. Are
just say shut up and I'll shut up.
So I think we'll have to wrap up the meeting from our end. So, but thank you. I'd like to thank John McDonald for being on standby to take over and host if we couldn't connect from here. So thank you for agreeing to do that tonight. And
I didn't have to. Congratulations, you guys, for getting it to work.
So again, our hope is that we can have a crew in here. With the change to this room, we are now going to have to finish by 9, I understand. I believe that's what we were told. And I see I've let it go a little bit over time, so sorry about that. So we'll be back next week, and we've got a few more in this season, and then we will be taking a break this year. There may be a few Zoom cafes, but we don't have a rental or insurance on this room after the end of May. So.
Okay.
Anyways, thank you for joining us tonight, and so far so good, and so more people can be here next week.
Well done, everybody.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Great.
Which day is that on?
So which